Sunday, September 30th, 2018, Maneco64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So I didn't make a video today. Played golf earlier this morning and finished the golf, and I had some lunch with my wife. And I thought it would be interesting to make a live stream, being it's Sunday, last day of the month, last day of the quarter. Made a fairly long video yesterday, and this is just a relaxed chat. I'll take all your questions. I'll talk about some of the key things that I think are important to look at as we go forward towards the end of the year. October is always can always be a tricky month for the markets, even though it's not always. Yeah, we're getting quite a few people coming on already. 30 people. Let's see who's here. I'm doing this in my living room, and I've got my phone, so bear with me. Hi, Lulu from New York. Dean Reynolds. Hi, Mario. Just on the way back to Yorkshire from London. This should make the train journey less boring. Oh, great. I'm glad. Universal Vibes TV. Greetings, Mario. Nice to see everyone coming on. Mike Schifflers from Holland. Nice to see. I've got quite a few viewers from Holland. It's like, I think my U.S., UK, Canada, Australia. My fifth top geographical viewership comes from Holland or the Netherlands. So that's good. David Wiseman from Dublin. David Wainwright from Tucson, Arizona. Bub Incorporated, how far do you believe the far away? I don't think we are too far. I mean, I've spoken about cycles, and historically, the expansions don't last more than 10 years. And we are right at towards the end. It's been almost 10 years since we bottomed in 2009, and we've been recovering. So it will be next year, 10 years. So I think we're very close. Hokey Dokie from Zurich, nice to see you. Pablo Pina from Toronto. The Shell Brell, good evening. Greetings from Florida. Christian Rivera. Oleg Yuzumenko. Once the stock market crashes, would you recommend buying back cheap stocks? Definitely. I think, yeah, if you're able to have cash safe in a bank, because I think it's going to be pretty vicious the next meltdown or crash. It's going to be bigger than everything else we've ever seen in the past. If we go back to 1987, 2000, 2001, 2008, the bubbles and the debt get bigger and bigger, and the crashes get bigger and bigger. So I don't see how this one is going to be any, it's going to be worse. But of course, when no one wants to buy stocks, I think there is a room to go in and invest in blue chip companies for the long term. Right now, I think they're too overvalued, in my opinion. I personally haven't really been too much of a stock market investor. I'm more of a currency guy, but I see the value of it. If you can buy really blue chip companies that have been around for a long time, they'll sit on it and wait for the dividends as well. That's it's not a bad thing. Cyan Kombarov, greetings from Almaty. What do you think about gold bonds with interest payable in gold? Yeah, platinum coins are worth buying. Why not? I personally don't. What do I think of gold bonds paying interest in bonds? There, I think Monetary Metals is looking to do that. Well, that's how it used to be. That's how up until 1971, when the system was backed by gold. That's how it basically used to be. The dollar bonds. I don't see anything wrong with that. I think it would be great for the system. Good afternoon, Mario. I made it at the start today. That's good, Aaron. Nice to see you. Richard Langelotti from Raleigh, USA. I see Billy is watching TV and you're stuck in the living room. Yeah, that's right. He's with my wife. He was here in the living room, but I think it's better for him to stay there because I shut all the doors and he'd probably want to leave at a certain point. Hi, Nathan. Nice to see you. Could you sell your London real estate, move to Brazil, and live like a king? Looter 92. I have thought of that. I could live fairly well with, if I liquidated everything in London and went to Brazil. The only thing is that, my wife is English. She has been to Brazil, but, it's very foreign to her. And we have her mother-in-law who's quite old, and we're the only family. And, if we left, she'd be all on her own. But maybe in the future, who knows? But definitely could live fairly well if I did that. I have thought about that. Nathan Jones, yeah, the golf was good today. The Ryder Cup was very interesting. And I enjoyed the Ryder Cup, not because of, countries playing against each other. It's just the match is great. The two teams trying to beat each other. It was very good, very good. Since you have a currency, you are a currency guy, should I have some cash in the safe? If so, which? US dollar, yen, or Chinese? What I mean by currency is like, I like falling currencies. I mean, in a perfect world where there's sound money, the only currency would be gold. But if you do want to, how can I say, kind of balance your holdings of fiat money, yeah, it's not a bad thing to have some dollars, some Swiss francs or euros or British pounds. But, the ultimate for me are silver and gold. Brazil, why Brazil? Too much crime there, corruption. America, Luigi. Brazil is a huge country. I'm originally from near Rio, and I probably wouldn't want to move around Rio, but there, you need to know there are really nice places to live in Brazil as well. And crime and corruption is everywhere. Brazil, there is corruption, a lot of corruption, but there's corruption in the UK, even though people here in the UK don't like to use that word. What about the US? There's huge corruption. Look at the deep state, how corrupt they are. So, and in the south of Brazil is a lot safer. I've got a cousin who lives in the south of Brazil, and it's a very nice place. So you've got options in Brazil. And the reason why we're talking about Brazil is because I'm originally from Brazil, and I've got Brazilian and Italian passports. So I've got the choice, to be in Europe or in Brazil. And that's one of the other things I wanted to talk about, maybe, because my father in the 80s, his grandfather was Italian. My dad was born in Brazil, but as an Italian, in Italy, there's some laws that if going back to your great grandfather, you can prove, that your great grandfather or grandfather is Italian, you can get a passport, and that's what my dad did in the 80s. And so he got an Italian passport, and the whole family got one, and that was one of the biggest, best things he ever did for us because it gave us the option to go elsewhere in the world. I couldn't have come to live in London and work in London in 1992 on a Brazilian passport. So that's another thing for people to look into. To have the option of passports. Am I saying I don't believe in countries or nations? I do actually. Brazil is my home, really deep down, but I adapt. The England is my home now, so there you go. I think that's an interesting thing. Good deals on favelas. Well, no, I wouldn't want to. Favelas, they are quite close to some nice areas, but no, I wouldn't want to. I would probably want to probably buy a better place than in a favela. Favelas are basically people, they start out as huts. So, but there are some favelas that have grown. Is Switzerland a good place to move? Well, I've got family in Switzerland. The only thing about Switzerland, it's very expensive and overpriced. Real estate in Switzerland is very overpriced. So, no, I mean, that wouldn't be, you know, I think, but it is a beautiful, if you have a lot of money and got millions and millions, I would go to Switzerland because it's a very nice country to live in. Do you prefer a warm climate? I actually like the seasons. So I like what we have here in England. We have summers are fairly not that hot. They're fairly temperate, and then you get fall. Winter can be drag on a little bit, and spring. I love spring, so I like the seasons more. So yeah, that's why maybe the south of Brazil would be nicer because they've got a little more. It's not as hot as in Rio. Rio, it's like hot all year round. That's right, Richard. Favela is not a nice place. No one should live there. I mean, and I mean the problem with Brazil, I think it's. I've looked back a little bit at the history of the currency back in the 19th century when Brazil was because Brazil became independent in 1822, and it was actually an empire to 1889. It was we had like a king in Brazil, royal family, and it was actually run quite well. And we had fairly sound money back then. But even then, there was the coins got debased and everything, and then by the beginning of the 20th century, inflation was rampant in Brazil, and I think that's one of the problems with third world countries. Inflation is even worse, and it just creates misery and a lot of poverty. It creates a lot of inequality. You get very few that have a lot, and very small middle class, and a lot that have nothing. A little like Europe is becoming, and the U.S. now. Aaron Levy, there's a good interview, X22 report with Rob Kirby. Fiat system died in '08. Since then, it's been on life support. I agree with that. I mean, I saw a documentary back, a few years ago, be after the financial crisis, and it was documentary about what happened during the crisis when all the bankers on Wall Street met with the Treasury Secretary Hank Paulson, and they were in a boardroom at the New York Fed, and basically Hank Paulson said the U.S. He said the United States or the West as it is finished, and he actually used the F word. He said we are effed. And so I believe, Hank Paulson, I believe, what he said, even though I don't believe what he says now, because he's trying to say that, they saved the system. But yeah, it's been irrevocably destroyed, the West, unfortunately. And the only thing that's kept it going is all the debt. Thank you, David Beat. Happy Sunday to you as well. America Luigi, do you think we will have a major market correction or just a correction for this year or next? I think it will be over a couple of years, and yeah, so it's not going to be all at once. So, and I think right now it definitely looks like the Dow made a new high a few weeks ago, and now it's back below that high. It looks like a false breakout for now. We'll have to see what happens tomorrow. I mean, I spoke about my video yesterday about the gold silver ratio, how that's dropped massively, and it's a good sign for the precious metals, but you never know. And the other thing I've been thinking, and I don't know if I've said that before in my videos, I don't think I have. One of the reasons they've had to keep gold manipulated and down these last few years, I think it's to allow the Chinese and other countries to divest of the fiat dollar. And but once they've got enough gold to reset the system, gold is going to go a lot higher. Yeah, Tesla 3, do you think emerging market currencies will collapse? Yeah, I mean, no, I don't think any fiat money, any fiat currency will survive, not even the dollar. And the meltdown starts at the periphery. So, yeah, emerging markets are unfortunately at the periphery. So everything will become worthless because how the system works is that as the US dollar is the reserve currency of the world, all the other currencies have, they're based on the dollar. They're a derivative thereof. So that's how it works. Dow down 50% this year. I think it's going to take more than a year, but some people think it's going to get back down to, levels like we saw in the late 90s, and that could be possible. And I think the other thing as well to look at is the Dow gold ratio. I think every cycle, that could be the resets. If you get a Dow gold ratio near 1, that is a reset. We had a reset in 1980 when the Dow and gold were around 800. And what does that mean? Well, that means that I think right now, paper assets, financial assets, as represented by the Dow in the stock market, are still overvalued against hard assets, which are represented by gold, by real things. So I'm not sure where we are right now. We're around 20. The Dow gold ratio is what, 27, over 20. In 1999, 2000, the Dow gold ratio topped at around 46. And it dropped quite a bit in 2011. And this is just since 2011, 12, 13. I think this has just been a correction. And in 2011, that ratio didn't get far down enough to constitute a reset, and I think it will. It could even go through 1. It could be that an ounce of gold might even be worth more than 1 Dow, which we've never seen before. Yeah, 23. There you go. I don't think digital currencies will take over. From gold and silver will always be. I think gold will always be, especially gold, is the money. It has been for 5,000 years. The blockchain might help. How can I say the mechanism for transfers? But and I think there's still room for cryptocurrencies as well. But I don't think they will do. I think gold and silver are still the premier forms of money. Vicky Steckman, when you think will drop markets? It's difficult to say, Vicky, when markets will drop. Usually doesn't happen around Christmas time. It, it could happen in the beginning of the year next year, like we had this year. It could be in the next month, October. We had the crash in 1929 in October. Does that mean every October there's crashes? No, but seasonally, there's a big possibility. So we got a few trolls around, so I got rid of some of the trolls. Girl Olgie, girl, girl Oli, yeah, what do you think of this October? You could be right. We have been waiting for every October. There's speculation about that, but it's possible. Things are not looking great in terms of interest rates are starting to creep up. In the U.S., we're above 3%. In the UK, we've seen rates go up. Even in Japan, rates are going up a little bit, and Italy as well. Friday, Italian bonds dropped quite a lot. We're back above 3%, went up about 25 basis points. Italy could be one of the triggers for a crisis as well. What's your thought on Andorra? Well, Andorra, I guess I've never been there, but I guess it's kind of a tax haven in the middle of Europe between France and Spain. But don't have much, don't know more about it. I think there's some good skiing there as well. Pablo Pina, why do you think silver had a big jump on Friday? I think the futures market, the commercials are long for the first time in 24 years, and I think the speculators who are massively short, they're worried and they've had to like short cover, and I think that's what did it. Some people think it's to do with Bear Stearns that the U.S. government is not gonna help J.P. Morgan manipulate silver anymore. I'm not too sure about that though. Tesla 3, trade wars. Yeah, if they continue, I just saw an article on Zero Hedge earlier today that said that they're very concerned about trade wars, that it could lead to a massive stock market crash. So, and they think there's no way back, that the trade wars are getting really bad. Tesla 3. What's your favorite U.S. president? Uh, I think Andrew Jackson was one of my favorites. And also George Washington. And that's it. I really don't like any of the presidents that we've had in the last 100 years. I'm not really too sure about JFK. If he was, he's probably my favorite of this last 100 years. And I think the worst president, I think Roosevelt, FDR, was the worst president because he took the America off sound money. He stole America's, Americans' gold. And yeah, he put America on this path of war, big government, and socialism, the New Deal. I think I said Andrew Jackson, didn't I? You said seriously Thomas Jefferson. I meant Andrew Jackson. Thomas Jefferson was a good president, I think, too. Nixon, no, not really. No, not Eisenhower. What do you think of Milton Friedman? I mean, I liked his ideas that of how that free markets and capitalism are the best systems, best system, compared to socialism. But I don't rate him in terms of monetary theory. He didn't believe that having a central bank is like central planning and it's not free market. So he failed in that, in the fact that he never called for the Fed to be ended. So mixed, really. Good evening from Cologne. Hi, Mr. Uzer. How are you? Ronald Reagan. I think Reagan, he he had the right idea, but he was infiltrated by the Bush cabal, and he was warned right away in 1981. He was shot, and after that, I think he was just a puppet to the Bush, the Bush and the big deep state, unfortunately. Hi, Mary. If we were to achieve a monetary system based on gold and silver, how could we secure it from other countries? Well, from trading with them, from making things that they want to buy. So you sell it to them and you get money or gold for it. That's how it works. Yeah, I like Ron Paul. He's my favorite. Unfortunately, he's never been president. Why do I not like Eisenhower? Well, I know he made the speech about the military-industrial complex, but he was still part of the deep state, I think, and I don't think he did. So, and I'm not too sure about World War II. Some of the stuff that went on there. So, yeah, he was a good president, Eisenhower, but not my favorite. Trump, I think Trump is actually not, he's a farce in my opinion. I mean, Trump was, he's controlled opposition. Trump has been used to quieten the Tea Party movement. Trump has been used to get rid of all the Ron Paul supporters. And yeah, I don't think Trump is for real. I'm sorry to say. Does he say things that please, the a lot of the Tea Party people? Yes, but does he do things that the Tea Party will want to be done? People like Ron Paul? No. He's got neocons in his administration, like John Bolton. He's going after Iran. He America is more and more belligerent than ever before. I mean, I would have much more rather prefer Ron Paul. Trump hasn't come out and said that he's going to end the Fed, and that's, in my opinion, just doesn't that just shows that he's not for real. What should replace the Federal Reserve? Nothing. There was nothing before the Federal. The United States doesn't need a central bank. The Constitution says what money should be, and that's what we should go back to. And the Fed. That's what I got here. That's why I got my shirt. You think he could ever end the Fed? Of course he could. He could begin, he could do a executive order, or, the Fed needs to be abolished by an act of Congress, just how it was formed by an act of Congress. But he could get the ball rolling. Yes, Calvin. Under a gold standard, we can't run, trade deficits, or else you lose all your gold. And that's why, you know, but that's what gold system does. It disciplines people. It's just like you and your household. If you spend more money than you've got, you've got to, than you have coming in every month, you're gonna have to start borrowing money. And if you had to pay, in gold, you'd lose your gold. That's the same thing. Do you support abolition of taxes? Of course. The income tax, in my opinion, is unconstitutional. And it's the only thing that keeps the fiat money system going. They have to have an income tax to support, to support the national debt, because the fiat money is backed by the national debt. So it's not a coincidence that when the Fed was created in 1913, that the income tax came back. It hadn't been charged since the Civil War. So yeah, definitely no income tax. Lord Humongous, the weather is really nice. It's sunny, but in the mornings and in the evenings it's getting cooler. But during the day it's fairly warm. It's quite nice. Yeah, he does have a picture of Andrew Jackson. That picture was there, I think, prior to Obama, and he's put it back, I think, or maybe it wasn't. But it doesn't, he needs to come out. Maybe, I guess you have to maybe give him the benefit of the doubt, but I just don't like the fact that he's, I don't know I don't know what the deal is with him so far. It hasn't. I think he's kind of let people down, at least me. But then again, I guess he's not my president. But good evening, Patty Beck. The IMF. Let's see. Maybe, fractional reserve will definitely bring down the beast. I think it's, yeah, it's, there's so much debt. That's the whole problem. Floyd thinks the gold standard will be replaced by the Bitcoin standard. Well, let the market decide. Yeah, John Bolton is a genocidal maniac. I know, and I don't understand why President Trump has him, in his, as an advisor. I don't understand why he's also got Larry Kudlow as an economic advisor. Why couldn't he have, hired Ron Paul as an economic advisor? I think that would have been much better. Do I agree with Adam Smith's views? Generally, yeah. I mean, he's, you know, free market, wealth of nations. Yeah, I mean, I do. It's not worth voting for anyone. That's right. Voting, I think it was, who said that? I forgot now, but I think it's Maxwell. What's his name? I forgot now, but what's his name? But yeah, maybe you guys know, but it was Maxwell. He's quite big in the alternative space, but he said that all the politicians are selected by the but no, not Robert Maxwell. No, he's an American guy. It will come to my mind soon. But what he says is that politics is just a game. It's only, yeah, Jordan Maxwell. He says that our politicians are selected and then we elect them, but we don't really have a choice, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, I think Theresa May. She was put there to delay Brexit. She didn't even vote to leave. Washington trials. I mean, there's a lot of talk about that. I want to see it though. Maybe like a Nuremberg style trials. And during Judge Kavanaugh's hearings, I think it was Lindsey Graham that asked him a lot of questions about military rule and courts, and that looked quite interesting. And a lot of people are saying that they're delaying his, confirmation because they're scared. Who knows? Who's your favorite economist of all time? Well, I would say is all the Austrian school economists, Ludwig von Mises, who else? Murray Rothbard, Friedrich von Hayek, all of the Austrian school, and also Frederick Bastiat. Even though he wasn't really an economist, he was kind of an economist. He's French from the 1850s, philosopher, economist. Yeah, so those would be. Not Milton Friedman. Hi, Susan. Nice to see you. Yeah, Trump was selected. Of course he was. His biggest donor was Abe. What's his name? Adelson. Yeah, Sheldon Adelson. So he was selected, I think. Yeah, like Jordan Maxwell said, uh, you can bet that if someone's running for president, he makes it to the Republican nominee or the Democrat nominee, you can bet that he's been selected. And that's why, Ron Paul would never make it, because they would not select him. I never heard that Milton Friedman wanted to abolish the Fed. I never heard that. But if he did, then good. Then I'll, you know. Yeah, von Mises is probably my favorite economist. Yeah, it's not only in the US, selections or elections, everywhere around the world. The Libra fraudster. I really wanted to ask, if I somehow came across a mountain, a pile of gold, what would that imply in terms of wealth and the gold rate? That's a weird question. I don't really know what you mean. What mountain of gold? A pile of gold? Well, you just look. If you came across that, good luck. I would keep it quiet and try to take it from where it was and hide it. Donald Bump. That's what he meant. Yeah, the Grand Canyon. Yeah, I saw the stories about the findings of gold in the Grand Canyon in like 1910 or 12, And from what I read is that it was really hard, expensive to extract, and the mining companies that went there gave up. So there might be a lot there, but it might be really difficult to get to. Do you support the regime in Turkey? I don't really know that much about Turkey to comment on that. I've heard many interview with Milton Friedman where he's very critical of the Fed. Yeah, he's critical of the Fed, but he's not critical of the existence of the Fed. Yeah, he criticized the Fed for the Great Depression, but he didn't criticize the Fed for being a central bank and being, anti-free market. Yeah, there, the COMEX exchange was in the Twin Towers at the World Trade Center, and there is a lot of the gold disappeared from the COMEX vaults during 9/11. So yeah, that's true. I don't know where that gold went. Yeah, there are places in Scotland where you can pen for a bit of gold. Also in Northern Wales, I've been to Northern Wales and penned for some gold. It's not much. You got to work really hard to get a few grains. What will be the consequences when cash is forbidden? Well, it will mean we're going to lose a lot of freedoms, privacy, and it could mean that they're able to keep the banking system going for longer. The banking system that's pretty much, in my opinion, bankrupt. News for All thinks Trump will end the Fed. I'd love to see that. If he does, then he's for real. But I haven't heard anything yet. Yeah, a gold and silver will rise when cash is forbidden. I agree with that because there won't be any, you won't be able to have cash, put cash away. So the best way to get the money out of the system would be to buy gold, physical gold and silver. Yeah, it might actually have the opposite of effect that they think it could have. Kevin Johnson, don't you think there will be chaos when the Fed ends? I kind of believe half my countrymen will die. Well, look at the chaos there was in 2008. We were told by one of the congressmen in 2008 that we were minutes away from martial law and the complete collapse of the system. So, is the Fed really that great? I don't think so. But of course, it would create a lot of havoc. But we need that, I think. Vicky Steckman, JP Morgan Silver. Yeah, I mean, JP Morgan is one of the biggest futures brokers. They could be holding silver for clients, for themselves. I don't know. I mean, for years, people have been talking about that they're long silver. Bobby 8270. If China and Russia is buying gold due to the fact that currencies are going to collapse, why isn't the American government buying? Well, we don't know if they're buying or not. They could be buying. And the other thing is that the American government is supposed to have, 8,000 tons. Maybe they do. Maybe, a lot of that has been leased out, but they'll buy it back. The reason why China and Russia have been buying it because they didn't have that much. So a girl, OG, the biggest black swan out there. I mean, it's really hard to know what what the black swan will be before it happens, but I would have to still say that it's the derivatives. It's huge. There's a huge amount of derivatives out there. Maybe maybe Italy. Yeah, maybe even the U.S. People keep talking about Europe and the euro, but it could be the U.S. Who knows? Something in the U.S. system. I don't know. Jazz Atwell, hi Jazz. Good afternoon, Monk man. Oh, you're welcome, Steve. Lord Humongous thinks 6,500 is the bottom for Bitcoin. Do you, Seth Shepard, do you think the U.S. has gold reserves it claims? Uh, well, it's difficult to say. I mean, they say they do. Uh, you know, it's on the books, 8,000 tons. I think they have access to it. It might be leased out, but yeah, I do think they have it. Dollars or sterling? Well, I think sterling. Yeah, I'd favor the dollar as a fiat money, even though I favor gold over both. Yes, Kevin. I would think if the Fed fails, everything else will go. Yeah, that's why we need to keep the pressure on the Fed. S. Walker thinks the bond market could be the big black swan. You could be right. I have a friend that still works in the city, and he's always bullish bonds. He always thinks, if there's a crisis, bonds will go up. That could be it. We could see a crisis, a stock market crash and stuff, and treasuries not go up. Not be a safe haven anymore. That could be the big thing people don't expect. They've been conditioned for over 30 years that it's always good to buy bonds, U.S. treasuries, once the stock market corrects down. Why has gold been in the bear market down in 2018? I think it's probably the strength of the dollar. That's why. I agree with you, News for All, about the a fair monetary system based on gold. And why gold? Well, because it's the best store of value, the best measurement of wealth that we've had for over 2,000 years. So that's why we should go back to it. Jazz Atwell, what do you think about a London meetup group? Uh, do you mean for what? For this channel? I'm not really looking to do that, to be honest. I prefer doing it through, doing the live streams, doing the videos. I'm not looking to do a meetup group. Lord Humongous, when I talk about bonds, I mean mostly, government bonds, treasuries. Yeah, I wouldn't touch junk bonds either. Are cryptocurrencies the future? I think they have a future. They'll be part of the monetary system. I think the technology as well of blockchain has a future. Are you in Brazil right now? No. I live in London. I've been in London for, living in London since 1992. I think Bitcoin is a good speculation, and cryptocurrencies. I think gold and silver are more they'll preserve wealth. Shane Sturgis, the reason banks are so powerful is because we, the people, make them rich and powerful because we buy more things than we can afford. I agree, and the other reason why is because, the great majority of people, 99%, I would say, of the people don't really understand how money works. And that's why I try to explain it in my videos, how, unfair and corrupt our monetary system is. But I agree with you as well, when, our greed in general, wanting things that we can't afford and borrowing money keeps them going. Thank you, Susan Chappell, for the super chat donation. Susan says, thanks for your service, Mario. And I appreciate the super chat donation, Susan. Any UKIP, any opinion of UKIP? Well, like all other political parties, I've, they're all selected by the powers that be. So I don't think, and I don't think UKIP, you know, they have a big following, but they never do really well in the general elections. So, and I don't really see any political party in the UK that wants smaller government. Maybe UKIP does, but you know. Lord Humongous, thank you for the super chat donation, $5. Yeah, I think UKIP. You asked about immigration. I think that's like a scapegoat. All the talk of immigration. Of course, some of it has been. They've let a lot of people in that are have different values than the British people. But the reason our economy is in the dumps is not because of immigration, is because we've borrowed and spent more than we can afford for many decades. That's the problem with the UK. It's kind of like what Clinton said. It's the economy stupid, but it's more like it's the debt stupid. I think so. We need to focus on that. Tommy Robinson, I think he's also actually. I don't really have much of a view on him. I think he's turning more towards controlled opposition, a bit like Alex Jones, who's become a Zionist. I've heard. Yeah, I don't want to get too much into the politics because I cover more of the economics. I want to wake people. I think a lot of this is all the Tommy Robinson, UKIP, Alex Jones, politics is just to divide us. We need to focus on the money and the monetary system. Because if we can break the back of the fiat money system, I think things will get a lot better. And that's how they get us. They divide and conquer us. So we need to focus on the system. Will it be easy? No, but I think it's the only hope we have. Tesla, do you support former president of Brazil? Like I said, I don't really care. Politics, it's always, it seems to, all the politicians in Brazil are corrupt. All the politicians here are corrupt. So I don't know. I think, yeah, we just need to focus on ourselves. Is that being selfish? No. Focus on yourself, on your family, close, relatives, and do the best that you can. Try not to, like one of the viewers said, don't give bankers the power by living beyond your means. Try to be honest. Yeah, and that's all we can do. Yeah, become your own central bank, Lord Humongous. That's what Jim Sinclair actually originally coined, and a lot of people use that now, me included. Kevin Johnson, biggest threat to humans are hiding behind Zionism. Partly, yeah, but the whole fiat money system, all the wars, yes, the Zionists benefit, but a lot of other people benefit. Big corporations benefit. And not all of them are Zionists, I guess. Yet, private central bankers loaning money to countries for interest is the problem. I agree. And the worst thing is the fiat money is actually, when they issue it through government debt, it's backed by the taxpayer. Then they take that money, which is they extract from us, from our future production, and they lend it back to us at interest. And they also lend money that they don't have. That's the other scam. If I could lend $10 million, even though I've only got $1, I would be doing really well and be guaranteed that I would be bailed out. No wonder Wall Street and the bankers have done so well these last 10 years. They're supposed to have collapsed, in '08, but yeah, they actually rewarded them for being irresponsible and doing bad business. So they rewarded them with even more. So they're continuing their bad habits. And that's why the next crisis will be really bad, in my opinion. Yeah, best website. Sometimes I also wish I didn't know as much as I did. I saw a video a few weeks ago about a pill that lowers your IQ. Is just a joke, and I said I'm gonna take some of those pills. So I guess it's the old saying, ignorance is bliss. Is that slavery? Definitely. I mean, we are under a slave system now. We're slaves to the bankers. But why did that happen? Well, because we've allowed central banks to exist. The only way to end that is to end central banks, a free market system. Because, yeah, there will always be bankers, of course, because some people want to keep their money maybe safe. But the way we've got it right now, it doesn't work. Yeah, Shane Sturgis, it's not only in Britain, the divide and conquer, it's everywhere, isn't it? Unfortunately. I have masters in economics, learn a trade, be a plumber, forget the degree. Yeah, that's not bad advice. Tesla 3, should all traders short bank stocks? I prefer the best way sometimes to be short is to hold cash or gold and silver. And because if there is a huge crisis and you're short the banks and the system comes under threat, you might make a winning bet, but you might not get paid. Counterparty risk becomes the problem. That movie, The Big Short, a lot of those guys that won big time in The Big Short, if the Fed hadn't bailed out a lot of the banks, they wouldn't have gotten paid out. So that's the lesson. I don't know the purpose of the ghost cities in China. Maybe the Chinese government thinks that more and more people are going to move away from the countryside. Maybe they will have a purpose in the future. One thing about the Chinese, they plan very, very long term. So we might be making fun of the ghost cities, but they might actually be being built for a purpose. Is any currency could stand during an economic collapse? Yes, there are currencies that will stand in economic collapse. They're called gold, silver, some of the cryptos. Yeah, not the fiat currencies though, not the national currencies. They won't. Maybe the dollar will survive in the beginning, but it will also collapse eventually. That's right, Susan. You can control the population in the cities. Yeah, a lot of the real estate markets are starting to come off the boil in Australia, Canada, in the UK, in London. Waifu says, I've noticed all credit cards seem to expire 05/2021. I haven't noticed that. Do I watch Max Kaiser? I used to a lot a few years ago, not so much anymore. Max Kaiser and Stacy Herbert. Have I heard of Q? Yeah, I mean, I've heard of the Q stuff. Zend me mail. Thank you for the super chat donation. The collapse is here. Government welfare is holding it up. I agree, and the only reason the U.S. economy is growing right now is because of the huge deficit spending. I think the budget deficit will be like 5 or 6% of GDP in starting, fiscal year 18-19. It's going to be $2 trillion. Yeah, it's not the private economy, it's the government, and that can't go on forever. Q is JFK Jr. Well, JFK Jr. is supposed to have died in a plane crash, so I don't know. Why not Kaiser? I still listen to him a lot. Sometimes, not as much as I used to. People change their tastes in what kind of people they watch. I'm sure a lot of people that watch me before don't watch me anymore, and I've get new viewers as well. We live in a yellow submarine. Hiding from Hillary thugs. Who's that? What do you think that the banks will do if they don't get bailed out? Yeah, bail-in is definitely part of the plan. Queen of England, part of the cabal, probably. Do you read Wolf Street? Yeah, I've seen them before. I don't read them regularly. Canada 2016, watching me since January 2016. That's great. I started out around end of November 2015, so you're like you've been around for a while. What year do you buy your first gold coin? What kind? It was a Krugerrand 2002, 1 ounce Krugerrand. I actually bought 20. I think it was about 21, and they were about 220 pounds each. Collect silver ounces with the Lizard Queen on the obverse. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the silver coins have her on the obverse. I actually like to thank Chris Wynett. He sent me some coins through the post from the States. And I've got, kangaroo from Australia, maple leaf, and they've all got the queen on the back on the obverse. He also sent me a tenth of an ounce gold coin. Thank you very much, Chris. I'm not sure you're here, but you'll probably listen to this later on. Patty Back, do you think the UK will be better off after Brexit making? I don't think the problem with the UK is the deals that we have now with the rest of the world. The problem with the UK is that we have too big a government, too big, a welfare state. So if nothing of that changes, I don't see why Brexit would be of any benefit. To be honest, are they really going to pare back all the rules and regulations that the EU has forced upon us? I doubt it. So I'm gonna take a few more questions, and then I'm gonna switch off. So Mario, why is gold and silver priced? Why is silver gold price so much above spot? I don't know. I don't understand what you mean by that. Do you mean the futures? Would the futures always have a premium because of the interest rate, because it's in the future? All right, everyone. So I'd like to thank everyone that participated in the live stream. If you're new to the channel, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Thank you, everyone, for the super chat donations. Thank you, everyone, for the contributions as well on PayPal, on Patreon, and also, buying, the Maneco64 merchandise in the Maneco64 store. And I wish you all a great rest of the weekend. And I'll talk to you later next week. Take care. Bye. So I'm going to turn this off now.